Hey, it's Katie, and welcome back to my booktube channel. Today, I am super excited to be doing the mid-year Freakout tag. I feel like before I started YouTube, this was the one tag I saw everybody do, and I'm so excited it's finally time for me to do it. I tried really hard to track down who originally created this tag, and I could not find their channel, so if you know, please comment their channel below or link it below, something like that, because I really tried and I could not figure it out. But I originally saw this tag on Haley and Bookland and Jessie the Reader's channels, so I will hopefully remember to link their channels below for you guys, and I am just so excited. So before I get into all of the prompts, I just wanted to update you guys on my reading goal, and I wanted to read 100 books this year. I read 70 books last year, but my reading year last year was only from May through December, so it made sense for me to kind of increase my goal a little bit, and I have almost reached my goal, and we are only halfway through the year. I have already read 96 books, and that is insane to me. I always talk about how many books I read, but it didn't even sink in until I was starting to make this video. 96 books in 6 months is crazy. I've been averaging like 15 or 16 books a month and like over 6,000 pages a month, which is insane. So I might end up making it closer to 200 by the end of the year. We will see, but I am so excited to get into these prompts, so let's jump into it. So the first prompt is, what is the best book you've read so far in 2021? And I feel like it's always so hard for me to narrow it down, but my gut answer was Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. I feel like I've talked about that book nonstop since I first read it. I read it in January, and the fact that it still has stuck with me. I'm obsessed with the characters, the entire plot concept, and the world, and the magic, and everything about it. And it's still stuck with me, and the sequel is coming out in October. I cannot wait to get my hands on it. I've already pre-ordered it, and I'm so excited. But this one has definitely stuck with me, and I read it all in one sitting, so I am going to say that that's probably my favorite book I've read so far. Next, we have, what is the best sequel you've read in 2021? And reading this prompt really made me realize I haven't read too many sequels. There's only a couple that come to mind, and I was kind of torn between A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas and also Crush and Covet from the Crave series by Tracy Wolff. And I think I'm going to go with Crush and Covet. I honestly can't think right now which one of those was more my favorite. I would probably say Covet, which I think is the third one. But I fell in love with that series. I was not expecting to love it as much as I did, and I read the second and third books in those series so fast. They were both over 600 pages. One of them might have even been 700 pages, and I read it in probably a day, or at least in 24 hours, and I love the characters. I love the plot. It's so funny, and just everything that I want in a fun fantasy, and definitely my favorite sequels. Then we have, pick a new release you haven't read yet, but you want to. And the first one that popped in my mind was The Infinity Court by Akemi Dawn Bowman. But I also thought about Realmbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. I feel like my list of new releases I haven't had a chance to read yet is probably pretty long, but those are some of the ones at the top of my list. The Infinity Court is like this sci-fi fantasy, which I usually stay away from sci-fi, but for some reason this caught my eye so quickly, and I am really hoping to read that one soon. It's kind of about this girl. I think she was on her way to a party, but she ends up dying before she gets there, and she ends up in infinity, which is basically where the human consciousness goes when you die. And when she's there, she finds out that, I can't remember the name of this thing, but it's basically like the equivalent of Siri or Alexa is in this infinity realm and basically enslaving all of the people because she's tired of doing all of the work for them in the real world. And so she is basically trying to fight back and enslave all these people and become the queen and like eradicate humans forever. So that's basically what it's about. It sounds super intense. I feel like it's going to pose a lot of really important, really interesting questions, and I am excited to pick that one up. And then with Realm Breaker by Victoria Aveyard, all I really know about that one is that it's basically a story about a group of characters that it's kind of up to them to save the world because all of the heroes who usually would try to save the world have died, and they're like the only people left to try to save the world. And I really love that. I love that each of our characters are probably going to be super flawed, and looking at the list of characters, there's like 5 or 6 of them, and they're basically choosing all of my favorite types of characters from other books and combining them into one, and it's a very thick book, so I'm excited to read it, but I'm also a little hesitant because it's pretty thick. After that, we have what is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and I would definitely have to say Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. If you've watched any of my prior videos, you've probably heard me talk about the Caraval series by Stephanie Garber. It's my favorite, and I just reread them recently, and I still love them, and she is coming out with the first book in her new series, and it's coming out, I think, September 28th or September 30th. It's the end of September, and it could not come soon enough. I literally have 3 versions of that book that I'm going to be getting. There's one that I think is coming out in one of my subscription boxes. It's not official yet, but I am pretty sure that the hint implies that they are doing Once Upon a Broken Heart. And then I pre-ordered the Barnes & Noble pink edition, and that's going to be signed. And then she just announced another edition that I can't remember where that one's going to be from. Oh, it's the Owl Crate edition. They are also doing a version of that book, and so I will be ordering that one as well. Hopefully I get a copy, but I will have 3 different versions of this book, so I am really hoping that I love it, but I'm sure that I will because I love Stephanie Garber's writing. The next prompt is what has been your biggest disappointment, and usually I have a hard time coming up with a book for like a disappointing prompt, but this time, there's one that jumps to mind immediately, and that is Spells Trouble by PC and Kristen Cast. That was the last book I read in June, and it was a huge disappointment to me. I was looking forward to that so much, and I actually found it in stores a couple days before the official release date, so I picked it up. I was so excited, and it definitely was disappointing. There's so many things I didn't enjoy about it. I didn't like the writing or the dialogue. It definitely felt like it was kind of dumbed down and sort of immature, and it felt like it was for a younger audience, which was really weird because there were also a good amount of sexual innuendos and also like this sexual encounter between 2 of our 16-year-old characters, which kind of made me feel really uncomfortable, so I didn't enjoy that. The magic element of that book was very disappointing. I mean, literally one of their spells to make it rain was just them chanting "make it rain" 3 times. I could rant about this book for a while, but I really didn't like it, and I gave it 1 star, which I think this is my only 1-star review that I've ever given, and I've read almost 200 books in total, so yeah, I was definitely disappointed by this one. On a more positive note, the next prompt is which book was the biggest surprise? And I would definitely say Crave by Tracy Wolff, because I bought this book expecting it to be a lot like Twilight, which there's nothing wrong with Twilight. I loved that when I read it when I was younger, but I really didn't think that was something I would enjoy too much now. But I ended up deciding to give this a chance anyway because a lot of people on Book Talk recommended it, and I'm so glad I did because the Crave series is one of my favorite series that I have probably ever read, and definitely one of my favorite series that I've read this year, and this book really surprised me. It felt very nostalgic, and there was a ton of humor involved, and I loved all of the supernatural creatures. I loved the romance element in this series. There's so much intense action, and it's just so great. I loved everything about it, and each of the chapters has a title, which always made me laugh, so I recommend this series. If you've been hesitant before, I definitely think you should give it a shot. After that, we have who is your favorite new author? So that could either be a debut author or an author that is new to you, and By far, it would probably have to be Trisha Levenseller. I hadn't read any of her books until this year, and I've now read 3 of them, and I have been obsessed with each and every one. I've read Daughter of the Pirate King, The Shadows Between Us, and Blade of Secrets, and she does a fantastic job of writing these strong female leads, and I'm obsessed with them. There's always great banter between our main character and all of these side characters, especially the love interest. She's like the queen of writing enemies to lovers, and it's always in these high stakes scenarios, and it's just so cool. I mean, the first one was basically this like pirate romance, and then the other one I read was about this assassin trying to kill this guy and ends up like falling for him. And then the last one is basically our main character who's like a blacksmith and goes on this journey with like a mercenary, and it's just so great. I love her writing. It's so descriptive and captivating and stunning, and I read every single word. I could go on and on about how much I love her world building and characters and writing and romance, and she has quickly become one of my favorite authors of all time. She's right up there with Stephanie Garber and Carrie Maniscalco for me, and I just always smile when I think about her books. Next is, who is your newest fictional crush? And I usually have a very long list of book boyfriends, and I feel like one of the more recent ones is Hudson from the Crave series, and he definitely surprised me. I really thought I was going to hate him as a character because of the way he was portrayed at the beginning of this series, but that was not the case. I fell in love with him. I think he is the epitome of a perfect book boyfriend, and he just treated Grace so well, and I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't want to spoil anything for you guys if you haven't read the whole series that's out so far, but I definitely think you guys should read it. I love him as a character, and hope that you guys see why. I'm definitely Team Hudson, and I'm very excited. This is another release I'm excited for. The 4th book in the series is also coming out later this year, and I have also pre-ordered that, so many books I'm looking forward to. Up next, we have a book that made you cry, and you guys probably know by now that I don't cry very easily. I feel all of the emotions very deeply on the inside, but I don't ever really shed a physical tear, and there's been so many books I've tried to read to make me cry, and none of them have really been successful. The only one I can think of that brought me really, really close to crying was Meet Cute by Helena Hunting. For some reason, it was just so emotional to me, and this book was like an emotional roller coaster. It felt like there were super happy emotions and a ton of like awkward laughter and all that stuff. And then there were also a lot of deeper emotions like grief and so many things like that. And I kept going back and forth between those emotions, and it made me really emotional. So I'm going to use that one for this prompt. And another one was Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I really expected to sob while I read that one, and somehow I didn't. And I feel like I'm a little broken that I didn't cry during that book, but I definitely got pretty close toward the end, and there was definitely a period of time after I finished that book where I just kind of sat and stared at a wall and thought about the ending and everything about that book. So it definitely hit hard, but I still have not cried physical tears. Next up, we have a book that made you happy, and books always make me happy, so it was kind of hard to choose just one, but I would probably have to say Well Met by Jen DeLuca, and I read my first Jen DeLuca book, I think in February. I read that one, and then I read the sequel, which is Well Played, and both of them made me smile so much. They're these fun, like, summery romances that take place at a Renaissance fair, and it's kind of like enemies to lovers. You have this really fun, unique setting, and the characters just jump off the page. Like, when I read the companion novel, which was the sequel, it literally felt like meeting up with old friends. I loved her writing. It was so fun and quirky and so much banter, and it was just really great, and I still smile just thinking about it. And that reminds me that I really need to go buy copies of both of them because I read the library editions and I really want to own them so bad. Our next prompt is, what is the most beautiful book that you've bought this year? And I know we've been popping up pictures of books for this video, but I'm just going to show you the one that I think is the most beautiful because it's right behind me. And that is Heartless by Marissa Meyer, and I will show you more of this book in a second, but this is an Alice in Wonderland retelling, and I listened to the audiobook of this last year. It was the end of last year, and I fell in love with it. This book literally broke me. I was not expecting to be that invested in an Alice in Wonderland retelling, but Marissa Meyer proved me wrong. This is so well done. It gives off the perfect Alice in Wonderland vibes. I love the characters, and it's basically a story of how the Queen of Hearts became the Queen of Hearts, which is so fun. I love a good villain story, and this was just so amazing, and so I needed a physical copy, and I finally got one. So first off, we already have this stunning cover, which I love, but then on the inside, it looks like this, okay? Like, look at this. And we have a crown here, and then we have our little, like, jester's hat in the back. I mean, what could be more perfect than that? I love this book. And last but not least, we have what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And my TBR is literally so long that I couldn't choose just one book, so I have a pretty good list here, and I'm just going to read them for you because I cannot remember them all. But the first one is Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis. Then we have A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. We have A Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. And then I have some on here that I have some series that I really want to finish. And the first one is Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. I've read the first 2 books, and I own the last 2 in the series, but I have not read them yet, so I really need to. And then I also need to finish An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I've read the first one, and I own the second, but I don't own the third and the fourth. I've been waiting for the fourth to come out in paperback, so hopefully soon. It might already be out in paperback, so I need to pick up the last 2 so that I can binge the rest of the series because I really loved An Ember in the Ashes. I have absolutely no excuse, but those are my goals for the end of 2021. Hopefully I can do that. I tried to not put too many on this list, so hopefully with my wrap up at the end of the year, you guys will see that I did successfully read all of those books that I just listed, but we will see because I'm a mood reader and my brain is all over the place when it comes to books, especially while being on Book Talk, Bookstagram, Booktube. Like, I learn of so many new books daily that, like, I'm just all over the place, but please let me know what books you are looking forward to by the end of the year. Let me know your answers to some of these questions. I feel like these are such fun prompts, and I would love to talk to you guys about them. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. I would really, really appreciate it. And if you do subscribe, please click the notification bell so you know when I upload next. Thank you guys so much for watching. I can't wait to see you in my next video.